What is going on, guys? First and foremost, I just want to thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. This has been 2 years in the making for me. I put my heart, soul, and effort into this project. Right now, I'd really appreciate it if you can click the like button and hit the bell notification. That way you always get notified when I upload the podcast. I will also be uploading the podcast to SoundCloud and working on getting it uploaded to Apple Podcasts. So without further ado, here is Space Dog.
Perfect.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Space Dog, where we like to talk about funny life stories and upbringings. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. He's a local filmmaker and film director. He has many award-winning short films and sketches, and he's a very talented and creative guy. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Christopher Velazquez of Violet Films. What's going on, my man?
And pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing great, brother. Doing great. Now, you said that you're a father of two, right? How is it dealing with two kids and bringing them into the film business?
It's very, very challenging. No, it's really fun. I actually credit my daughter for being the reason why I actually got as far as I did in my career as quickly as I did, because prior to her being born, film was more of a hobby that I wanted to do, and I never really knew how to get my foot in the door. I didn't have enough money to go to film school, that kind of stuff. And then once she was born, that was the real kick in the butt that I needed to, like, hey, let me get my license, let me build up a portfolio to where I started off doing commercials for people and weddings, quinceañeras, stuff like that. And then through that, I did an apprenticeship with a friend of mine named Harry Monk, who he's a producer in Los Angeles, and I met him. He lives in Antigua, and actually right now, currently, his film Animal Crackers is on Netflix.
Oh,
That
wow.
it's like that's one of the top 10 films. It's been like that for 2 weeks, and that was actually funny part about that film. When they were first designing the film, they sent me like a short film that was like the concept idea, and I actually showed it to my daughter. And at the time, my daughter was like 2, and so I got her feedback whether she liked it or not, and then I sent the information back to Harry and talking to the director and stuff like that, and kind of gave him a direction on where to go as far as what kids would react to it. So that was like in the very early phases, and now she's 8 and the movie finally came out. And it's an animated movie, so it takes a long time to make them.
Of course.
But I credit my kids as being that kick in the butt that I needed to kind of get to the next spot of my life. And my daughter loves acting. She's an award-winning actress. At 8 years old, she's done a whole bunch of short films. She's been an extra in a feature film.
Wow.
She has a pretty good laundry list of stuff that she's done. And my son, he's been in a few short films as well.
Yeah.
He actually, currently right now, I'm actually working on my releasing my first official feature, which is Bishop. Originally, we shot it as a short. Yeah, we shot it as a short film, and then we added some scenes to push it over that time limit to make it a feature. And that's going to be his official debut in a big film and stuff like that. So he's 10 months old, but he's getting into the family business pretty early. Yeah.
Your daughter is super, super talented. I've seen her work from super young to growing up to where she is now. It's like night and day. She was just like, boom. It was like,
yeah,
she's amazing. She's really a talented actor, and I hope that she does go on to do really big things. And I know that you're going to push her to do like those amazing things.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that we do, you always hear like, horror stories of people like, oh, I don't want my kids in the industry.
Yeah, definitely.
The cool part about getting my kids involved in film on an independent level versus a Hollywood level is that I'm there with my kids. I know who they're around. I know what they're exposed to, and I don't push my kids to do something they don't want to do. So like there's a few short films and stuff that we've put out that are award winners, and there's one that we're going to turn into a feature film. It's a proof of concept right now. And my daughter was a little iffy about it because she doesn't like horror films.
Oh.
And so she's like, I had to kind of talk to her about it to do the short film in the first place. And once she saw it, she was like, I like it. She goes, but can we change a few things before we make it a bigger film? So I take into consideration what what she thinks, so that way she feels comfortable, because if she's comfortable, you get the best performance out of a child. And like right now, currently we're working on Marceline, which is a series that is going to be a live picture, a cross between regular show, Adventure Time, and Saturday morning cartoons, and it's all live action.
All
So
live
that's
action?
kind of, it's all live action. So that's kind of like an idea. It's the instead of it being a pilot episode into the series, we're actually going to split the pilot into 6 separate episodes, so it sets up the story and you understand everything. And then season 2 will take the actual show as it goes and stuff. But it's going to be a kids show that also will entertain adults and make them laugh and stuff like that. So we're working on that currently right now.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that, Marceline. It looks cool. I love the little effects during the little trailer.
Yeah, those are all like previs effects, dude.
Yeah.
We're actually making sure that we do as much in camera as possible. I'm a very big fan of practical effects and practical costumes. I don't like, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't like people when they say, "Oh, we'll fix it in post or we'll do it later," and it's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? But yeah,
like, let's enjoy it. Like, let's like go through it and like enjoy the costumes, building the costumes.
yeah,
Speaking
and
on
then
speaking on horror, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
Speaking on horror, you're dabbling a little bit in horror now. I see you have like, I want to say 2 or 3 short films that were horror based.
Yeah,
The Dolls one, man, was legit creepy. It gave me a little bit of the creep, man.
that's
And
actually the one
your
that we're
daughter did
turning into
super
a
good in
feature.
it. She like exude like her pain. I was like, oh, I feel that. It
Yeah,
was
she
crazy,
did
man.
really good. Yeah, no, horror is something that I've dabbled in for a while now, but it's something that I've always wanted to. It's the easiest medium to start out in because it's technically the cheapest kind of film to make when you think about it. But at the same time, it's really difficult to hit those notes properly and scare people. I mean, the first time I ever did a horror film, I'm trying to remember it was called. Oh, it was called Kyle Rinrin, which is actually about a book that a demon's possessed to it. My friend Daniel helped me out in it, and we made it for a local short film contest at the Merced College, and then we ended up taking it all over the place, and we screened it in I think it was in Sacramento, and so we were screening in Sacramento with a theater full of people, and like there was a part where the monster kind of like you see him and then he like disappears like a jump scare,
Yeah.
and the air got sucked out of the room. And that was the most amazing thing that I've experienced. Is like, I love live screenings when people react in real time. And doing horror, I found that there's certain tricks that I'm actually good at, that I can actually scare people and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not the best. There's some people that do it a lot better than me.
Yeah.
But I'm getting there to that point to where my first official feature that I'm actually raising a big budget and actually doing it is going to be horror. And it's mainly because it's the cheapest route to go. I mean, I have a whole slew of things from sci-fi to action adventure and stuff like that, but the money's not there, so I don't want to release something that I can't give 100% quality on yet. So those ones stay short films because of the budget, and then the feature films are going to be horror and stuff like that once they start out. So we'll see how it goes and stuff. But yeah, it's fun scaring people.
Definitely. My favorite genre is horror. I've always been like a horror fan. Recently I've been loving, I don't know if you heard of him, Ari Aster. I
think so. Yeah.
Love his films. He did a Hereditary and Midsummer.
Yeah, those are good films.
Yeah, something about those, man. And he's an indie guy too, which I really like because he did a short film before he did those 2 big ones.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something about those films, the Midsummer and the Hereditary. Like he shows an image too long, and it's very
uncomfortable,
creepy. Yeah, uncomfortable. Or he shows something, and he's just not afraid to show those things. And I think that's what makes it kind of scary.
Me. There's something that I notice a lot in modern day horror films versus back in the day. It's like they try and change with the times. Back in the day, you had slasher films, you had people popping out, you had blood, you had gore. Jason, Freddy Krueger, Mike Myers.
Those are my favorites.
Back in the day, that I guess because people were kind of desensitized, they didn't really know a lot about gore and violence because the media it wasn't always in the media. It was always kind of a taboo subject. Back in the day, those were really easy triggers to scare people. Today, the world is so like, I'm used to everything. Absolutely. You have to think outside the box. And a lot of filmmakers, myself included, we're going and tapping into our own life experiences. Like, what made me uncomfortable? An awkward, long silence. Yeah. So you stay and you linger on a subject or a doorway or a doll, for example.
Yeah.
And people after a while go, is this intentional? Why is this still there? It's creeping me out. I don't like this. And, you know, the more uncomfortable you can make a person, the more successful the jump scare or the payoff is. In modern day horror films. So like Midsummer, that's a perfect example.
Midsummer,
of like
man,
just stuff that makes you uncomfortable.
I went with my partner at the time. We went to go see it, and crazy story. It was hilarious, but crazy story. We were in the theater, right? And we were watching it. Have you seen the film?
I've seen half of the film. I
Half of
have
the
2
film.
kids at home. So yeah, I have 2 kids at home, so I can't watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
But my thing is like since I'm a filmmaker, I'm always doing homework. I'm always doing research. There's a lot of A24 films that I love. And there's a lot of A24 films that I haven't been able to watch all of it. So I'll watch the clips on YouTube, or I'll watch the little sequences to kind of, in my reasoning is I'm watching how they filmed the shot, how they set the shot up. But in you know, I'm actually watching the scene and I'm getting bits and pieces. You watch enough of the scenes, you get the whole entire movie.
Yeah.
And so like that's kind of like how I've been watching that film. But from what I've seen and from the story synopsis and everything else, it's beautifully done.
Yeah,
it's very, very creepy. You know what I mean?
We were in the
especially
theater. Yeah, go ahead.
especially the end.
Oh, dude, yeah.
The whole fire and stuff like that. That was just uncomfortable in itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were in the theater, and we were watching it midway, and it was at a very climactic scene. So we were watching it, and right when we were watching it, I started to feel sick. I was like, am I like I had never gotten sick during a movie. I was like, am I getting sick like watching it, like watching blood or something like that? I was like, what is it? Turns out during it, because I started to look to my partner, I was like, I feel weird. I was like, and then boom, a lady screams all the way in the back. She's like, oh my God. And we're like, and I was freaking out. I was like, what the heck? And I felt sick. I was feeling weird. Turns out there was an earthquake happening during this climactic scene. And it was shaking my body. And I was like, what the heck? And I was just like, and the lady screamed and it freaked me out. I have anxiety like a little bit. So I'm like, what's going on? And she's screaming, oh my God, earthquake, earthquake, earthquake. And she runs out the theater. And like a minute later it stops, and everyone's just like looking around like, what the is she on? Like, it was scary. The earthquake was scary, but I was definitely feeling weird. And
my suggestion to you is don't ever go to a 4D theater, those XD or whatever, those ones that they have.
Really big wide ones?
Those they're really big wide ones, but there's also some of them that the seats move. So they're designed to mimic motion.
Oh yeah, I've heard about those.
If you watch a movie like Solo or something like that from Star Wars, you're gonna get motion sickness real quick and not even realize what the hell's going on, because the subtle movements, you're just gonna be like, why is my stomach hurting?
Definitely. So doing my research about you, you have a lot of short films. A lot of people are into your short films. You have a very loyal fan base. But can you take me back when Christopher Velazquez was barely starting on the film scene? What made him want to do film, and what made him want to be a director? Did you want to be an actor first? Just take me back to where it all started.
All right. So let's see, back in 1946, I'm just kidding. So my love for film came from a very young age. When I was a kid, I was the kind of kid that I could recite all the lines from Hook at like the age of 4.
Oh, dude.
And it primarily started off where I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be on movie posters. I wanted people to, know who I was. I wanted to be like the next Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt or whatever, right? As I got older, I realized that I like writing short films. I like writing stories. So like in high school, I would write stories. I'd write little shorts that eventually today are actually films and stuff that have been put out. But at the time, they were just little shorts, shorthand stories, just a basic idea. So they always kind of stuck with me. I love stories that are more than meets the eye. I guess the best way of putting it, like there's more to it than what you see on the surface. And so at a very young age, I kind of took, a liking to stuff from Stanley Kubrick. I liked looking at, mystery films. I liked seeing action sci-fi films that had more story to them than action. I love Star Wars, by the way. So it's like, films that have a lot of lore and everything to them. And then as I got older, my first film that I did was actually in high school, and it was for a senior project. and it was a horrible short film. But me and my friends got a camera together, and we actually recreated scenes from Macbeth. And so we shot, the short film and stuff for the grade. The teacher was like, either you guys write a report or you guys make a little film that whatever would be in the report is in the film for the class. So we recreated some scenes with a dialogue explaining what the scene was. And we had the liberty of actually changing the words so it's modern language so people can understand it better. But we actually had a friend who at the time his dad had armor and swords and weapons. And so we used real swords, real armor, real weapons. We used my dad's living room, so there's no way we had real sets, but we did the best we could, and it actually put an axe through my dad's wall.
Oh man, I was about to say, did you guys cut each other up?
Yeah, we had an action sequence, which was actually pretty cool. I mean, it's the only time my dad's actually let me fight on his flight of stairs with a sword and not yell at me right out. But we put that together and stuff, and it was fun seeing the reaction of the class because they were like, "Oh, this is funny." Granted, we're high school kids; they understood it wasn't going to be blockbuster material, but they loved it. We got an A.
Absolutely.
Then I went into right after that. I started doing YouTube videos under another YouTube channel with my brother, and it was just random stupid videos. There was no point to them. Some of them were comedy acts. Some of them were just basically it was us teaching ourselves how do we make something funny or how do we make a short film.
Absolutely.
And we started doing that for a few years with our cousins, and all of our actors were family. And by the time I was deep into college a few years, I started taking acting a little seriously. I signed up for a drama class and I took acting, and I was an actor in Dracula. I was an actor in a show called Galaxy Cafe. And so I kind of got experience on stage, and that's actually where I met my wife. She was actually my boss. She was a stage manager. So good things come out of things when you least expect
that's one way to slide in there and get that gig.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. We met in college and stuff, and she kind of inspired me to take it a little more seriously. But at the time, I really didn't know how to. And I was, looking at film schools, but they're really expensive. And, they have financial aid and stuff that can help you out. But I was in that little bracket where my mom and dad made too much for me not to qualify for financial aid. Because it's not like it is now. Now, financial aid takes things into account and they help people out.
Definitely.
Back then, it was real strict. If your parents made so much money, you're not going to get the help.
Yeah. Definitely.
And it was way too much money for me to ask my dad, hey, can you spare $100,000 and send me to school for something that, in retrospect, nowadays people are starting to realize that a diploma doesn't necessarily equal a job. It's
Absolutely.
what you have on your resume. And so, I, tried my best doing some shorts and putting some stuff together. And then I actually was working with my cousin's ex-husband at the time. Currently they're divorced. At the time they were married.
Together,
He was like, hey, I need someone to do some free videos for me, build up some experience. And so, I got paid like $100 or whatever for some of the videos. Some of them were just experience. And so I would drive from Merced to Turlock and, kind of get these videos done and stuff like that, and still have a job on the side to be able to pay for rent and do all the stuff. And then my daughter was born. I met Harry. He took me under his wing and kind of took me on some projects with him in the Bay Area. I got on set learning, and basically after a few years of just a grind, not making any money, except for, change for gas, I got a license with the city of Merced and started my own film business. And slowly it was, kind of picking up. I do little jobs here. It was enough to pay for bills. I do a couple short films. And then in 2016 or 2017, it was 2017, I took time off of doing pretty much, quinceañeras, weddings, stuff that would pay the bills. And for a whole year, I devoted time to making short films, writing stories, putting my stuff out. And then pretty much 2018, 2019, I reaped the benefits of that because I won awards, I went places, people noticed my work. And so now it's one of those things where, like, if someone says film in Merced, there's a very short list, and I'm, if not number one, I'm at least on that list. I'm at least on that list somewhere.
No, bro. Honestly, I think you're at the top, man. You're so creative, and just like your filming style, it's a different style. I haven't seen it around, and I met other filmmakers. Um, your style is just your levels above, and I think it's just due to the work that you put in beforehand. Like you said, you were struggling,
Yeah.
like not making money, and that just shows volumes in your work, brother. Like,
It's funny. It's like you can ask any filmmaker, they're going to tell you like, oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. This is where I get to. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but for me, it's one of those things where like I can put out something that I know for a fact I've put 1,000% effort, and in my head, it's not enough. I'll see a mistake that no one else will see, and I'll be like, I need to do that differently sometimes.
just
And I
never
know some
satisfied,
filmmakers,
right?
no,
Yeah, never satisfied.
and it's not the actor's fault. It's not any of the crew's fault that we work with. It's just something in my head that's just like, this is a picture I have in my head, and if that picture doesn't look exactly right, there's one little thing off. It can be completely fine. It could be something that everybody loves. It could be an intention. It can be not an intentional mistake that turns into something great that like expands the lore of the film or character background or something. But in my head, it's not what I intended. I'd
Yeah,
be like, okay, that's not exactly what I wanted, but it's close enough. And I think for as a filmmaker, it's always close enough. There's never ever going to be something you release that's going to be like, that's it. There's no way I could have made this better. Unless you're Stanley Kubrick and you make somebody do a take like
yeah,
128 times.
right.
I don't have that luxury.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and I don't even think I would want to put someone through that because I'd get exhausted before the actor. So it's kind of one of those things where, I try my best. My style is more cinematic. It's more, I'm trying to recreate the golden age of filmmaking where they actually had long camera takes. They actually had camera pans, movement. The camera told the story. And there's a lot of filmmakers that I work with here in Merced that they have their own style, and there is mainly, I just want to have a film look. I
Yeah,
don't I don't want to have a reason for the camera movement. I just want it to look nice. And in
exactly.
my head, it's like I need to have a reason why the camera does this. You know what I mean? Even if it's something as stupid as a character opening a door or walking out of a door. If you pay attention to my films, 90% of the time there's a camera movement when the actor is moving. And
Absolutely.
that's because it's intentional. It's intentional to drive your eyes somewhere or move something. And that's something I've learned over years of like working with people that knew what
Yeah,
the hell they were doing and gave me
absolutely.
tips. Yeah. So, I mean, it's something that it's a trial and error, and you figure out what works, you figure out what doesn't work, and you fix it and you move on and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I was watching your documentary, Family RX,
Oh
and
yeah.
your father, man, he seems like a really decent guy. He seems like a loving father. Going through your times when you were coming up and you were struggling, was it really
Mm-hmm.
helpful that you did have parents that supported your journey and helped you along the way or gave you advice?
Yeah, my dad and my mom have always supported me. But it's one of those things where it's like what they were supporting me at what time. So like my mom and dad are traditional Mexican family. They come from a traditional Mexican family. They're hardworking people. I love them to death, and they love my kids. They love my wife. They love my family, and they're always really good to us. And my mom and dad, when I first started my career, was, oh, this is a phase, or this is a hobby that's going to die out
I've
eventually.
been through
And
that too.
so they were always pushing me. You got to become a teacher. You got to go to school. You got to do this. You got to do that. And then in my head, it was like, no, this is what I want to do. And I know for a fact that if I work my ass off, I can pay bills. I can do this. You know what I mean? I went into filmmaking, which anybody listening to this podcast or watching this video, one of the things you need to understand is if you're going to go into the entertainment industry or the film industry, you need to have a plan of what actually pays the bills or what actually can get you to the next step. Do not enter this industry or do not go into filmmaking if you want to be famous, because it's not going to happen. I
Definitely.
mean, a lot of the people that are famous or that are up there, they have years of struggling and work to get them there, and they even have agents. They have people who are press reps. They have people who got them to that star status, but it's a strategic plan to get there. It's
Absolutely.
very rare for someone to just be famous overnight. And usually when that happens, it's 15 minutes of fame and then it goes away. You want to have something that's self-sustaining. So it's
Right.
like my parents were really on that list of like, you need to take care of your family. You need to do this. Well, once I took that time off and they started seeing that I started winning awards, I started getting cash prizes that I would put towards, paying bills. They started seeing that I actually was making a name for myself. That's when my parents kind of backed off and were just like, okay, he's actually doing something. And so now my parents are like, oh, they're proud, like, hey, my son's a filmmaker. That's what he does and stuff like that. But my parents have always supported me. Like there's been times where like I was down on my luck and my dad would help me pay bills. There's times where I was down on my luck and my dad helped me get a camera. My first camera, my first computer, all my dad. My dad like literally was like, and at first it was, oh, this is a hobby. He was one of those like those excuses of like, oh, I'm just buying it for you because it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
But as time went on, my dad was like, he used to be a photographer and he always wanted to be a filmmaker, a cameraman when he was younger. But back in the 70s, back in the 80s, it was a lot harder than today's world to get your foot in the door. Today you have YouTube, you have, different platforms.
So many platforms. So many platforms.
People can see your work. You can, get your foot in the door or have basically a reel so you can go and apply for jobs. Back in the 70s, it wasn't like that. Everything was on film. You couldn't necessarily make a reel unless you had a lot of money. And my dad was like, there's no, money in that for me. He loves taking pictures. He's a very good photographer. And he taught me everything I knew about lenses and about, taking photos and stuff like that and framing shots. But he was like, I'm going to become a pharmacist because he got interested in that and he became a pharmacist. And so me growing up, my dad, let me play with it. I'm like 5 years old and I have a picture of with my dad, which I actually have the camera here at my house. And it's an old 1940s, kind of like film wine camera.
Oh, wow.
That photographers would use.
Yeah.
My dad trusted me with it at 5 to not destroy it. And it's still here in one piece. So that tells you that I didn't break it as a kid. And
hey,
I must have loved
hey, man,
something.
you're meant to do this.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, so my dad was a big influence and stuff, and my mom, she also supported me too. She's really good to my kids, and she's always helped out. Like, oh, we'll watch Violet while you guys go to a film festival. We'll babysit the kids while you guys go and do a job or something like that. They've always been people that they give a lot more than they get back.
Absolutely.
And so like, eventually someday I want to be able to get to that level where like I can take care of them. Like they took care of me. Right now I'm not there yet, but hopefully in the near future when my dad retires, I can take care of him and stuff. So, but yeah, they always help me out and stuff like that.
I remember the first time I met you. I don't know if you recall at the time, but you were walking out of Starbucks. You had your little notes and everything. And I don't know, just something about your aura. I was a kid in high school. And I wanted to be an actor because I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be Chris Hemsworth, or I wanted to be famous. That was what I was in for. I was super young though. But I did want to be famous, and I was like, I just want to get in acting. I'm gonna make all this money. Da da da. This is what I'm gonna do. And I remember going around, and I did meet a couple of other filmmakers. But I ran into you at Starbucks walking out. I remember walking up to you. I was like, hey man, are you a filmmaker? And you're like, oh, yeah. You're like, damn, this kid just came up and all up in my grill.
You'd be surprised how many times that actually happens. And there'll be times where, there'll be times I have a production meeting with someone. I mean, pre-COVID, there'll be times I have a production meeting with someone and we're at a Starbucks and then like I'm leaving and randomly someone was like, did I overhear you saying a short film? Like, do you need extras? Do you need the crew or do you need something? And it's like, yeah. I mean, come on. It's like, but I remember the first thing me and you worked on was a contest for a film riot. It was
Spielberg contest.
Yeah, it was a Spielberg contest where you had to like make a short film that had a Spielberg-esque camera movements and stuff like that to it. And actually, what's funny is that this last year at the Violet Film Festival, we screened a film from Film Riot, and so I was in contact with the guys. And I was kind of telling them about, the first time I ever submitted something to you guys was, a long time ago and kind of talked about it. And they're like, oh yeah, we remember that. They basically, he goes, our film didn't win the contest, but our film was placed 5th. And so only the first 3 got stuff, but we got 5th. And so it's like, that was something out of, I don't know how many people submitted. You know what I mean? It meant something.
Did you see the winning film?
Which one?
It was, I think, the winning film. It was like an alien type deal. And
it was like
the old guy, right? The old guy walked out, or he was in bed, and like the light shine and everything.
Yeah,
that was crazy. That was a crazy short film.
That was way above my my skill level at the time, because like you're only as good as the equipment or the gear that you have at the moment.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? For some people, and at that time, like I didn't have the ability to make a whole bunch of special effects. Now I do. My computer processing has upgraded over the years, but at the time it was like, hey, I can only do what's in camera, and I only have so much time. So we're gonna film in a parking structure.
You still have the Spielberg challenge with me, and
I do. I have it on the back of the hard drive.
You gotta send that to me because
I will. I'm gonna send it to you. Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you. I'm actually upgrading my website currently at the moment, and I'm upgrading my portfolio, and I'm gonna be basically releasing a segment on YouTube called Legacy Films, which is basically all of the short films that have won or been put in competitions, and kind of show the progression of when I started to where I'm at now. So people who are aspiring filmmakers can actually see, hey, it's okay for your stuff to look kind of wonky at first.
Yeah.
Because eventually you'll get there. You got to learn from previous films. And what's funny is like now, like if I take a break from looking at my films and I don't watch them for a while, I can actually see where I make common mistakes that anybody else will actually notice. And I actually see where I fix it as it goes. It's actually kind of crazy when you actually look at your work over a course of like 10 years, you can see like, oh, why did I even do that? It's like, the camera goes like this, and it's just like, why did I not cut that extra 5 seconds? It would have looked so much better. It's like,
but speaking about
you learn.
Yeah, speaking about the upcoming directors and stuff like that. Speaking on that, it's a perfect segue to a thing you created. You created the Violet Film Festival, and basically, what the Violet Film Festival is, from my understanding, is all kinds of short films or sketches shown in a festival type deal, kind of like an indie scene. Is it just local people, or is it people all over the world?
It's all over the world. So so when the film festival started, it started as a pipe dream, as an idea, and mainly it was me and my wife were the ones that came up with the idea out of necessity. There was some film festivals happening in Merced and in the areas and stuff like that, but they were more catered to bigger films or films from Los Angeles, San Francisco, and any local films they showed were their friends or people they knew. It wasn't like, oh yeah, we have an open submission to everybody, and even if you submitted, you weren't really going to get picked unless you knew the guys. So it was kind of like that thing of like, oh, this is kind of unfair. It's kind of like, whatever. And I was starting to get into that festival scene and starting to get stuff out there. And we went to a Comic-Con event here in Merced the first year. At the time, it was called the California Republic, or it was called Colossus Con at the time. And we went there and we had a booth. We set up. We were late that day because I slept in. So we showed up, we set up our booth and stuff like that. We got some clients, we got some people checking out our work. At the time we were in pre-production for a few short films, so we had some props and stuff there for people to check out. And then I ended up talking with the organizers and hitting it off with them, and just they're really nice people. And when we were leaving and packing up, I went to him and I kind of apologized for being late and stuff like that. And he's like, no, I guess it's fine. There's a lot of people like your stuff. You had a projector, you had films, entertaining people. And I told him, I go, you should, think about putting on a short film festival. I would totally be willing to submit some work. And he's like, yeah, let's talk about this. 2 weeks later, there was a contract signed, and I was the.
Uh-oh. I think we might have lost him. Let me see if I can get him back. Sorry for that. We may have lost him. All right, here we go. We have him right back. Sorry about that. All righty. Sorry about that, folks. No, yeah, we can't hear you, brother. Just 1 minute. Christopher Velazquez has lost. You can't hear me?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, sorry. Cut out. I was like glitching for a second. No.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. Christopher Velasquez lost his just audio listeners only, but he lost his audio for a second. But he's back now.
Yeah, I'm back. So, anyways, where was I? So he basically within 2 weeks had a contract with me, and I was in charge of a film festival for the actual event. So the following year, we held our first film festival in, in conjunction with the Comic Con, and it was a success. We had people coming and going out of the building. We never had like a lot of people in there at once, but we always had a flow of people watching a short film or watching 2 short films and then leaving, and it was something that would get people moving around the whole area, and they loved it. And in the second year, we did it again, and it was the same thing, and it was a success. And then around that time frame, I was doing a photo challenge for the local, kind of playhouse group and stuff that they do here in Merced called the Phoenix Collective. I was doing a photo challenge, and I had ended up meeting some people that worked at the Merced Theater, which is the big, tower theater that's downtown. And one of my dreams was I always wanted to have the film festival there. And I remember my wife always reminded me, she's like, remember when you told me like you wanted to have it here? Here's your chance. You should talk to them.
Absolutely.
And so I had a pitch meeting in front of the whole board, and I basically was like, look, this is my film festival. This is what we can do. Let's try it. And last year, they agreed to it. We had a year of planning, and we put on a 2-day festival at the Merced Theater. And it was a success, but it came with its kind of, challenges. There was a few things that happened right beforehand that, kind of had a little bit of a setback for some things. It's always unexpected in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was successful enough for them to agree to do it again in 2020. And they were really happy and stuff. And so we reduced it from two days to 1 day. And we were going to put it on in September, but with COVID and everything going on, we're actually moving the 2020 Film Festival to April of next year. And then in 2021, that year's film festival is going to happen in the fall. So we're actually going to have 2 festivals.
2 in 1 year.
Yes. Okay. Just so we can keep on that annual thing going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Have you ever worked with any actors that were like not good, and they thought that they were like the shit, and they thought that they were like, oh yeah, I'm good, like just like better? Because I've worked with filmmakers and I have worked with other actors to where like their thing was like, oh, what have you done? I'm like, oh, I haven't really done anything. I did plays in high school, and I did like one short film, and they were just like, oh well, your resume is not the greatest, and just look down basically upon. So I know that there's people out here in Merced, but it's like, dude, really in Merced, like, there's nothing. There are some good filmmakers, and hopefully there are people that can make it big. Hopefully you being one of them. But it's like, dude, we're in Merced. This is not like the biggest project ever.
Yeah, I think when it comes to filmmaking here in the Central Valley, and this includes Fresno, Tulare, Bakersfield, Modesto, everywhere I've worked, attitude is the number one thing. It's not necessarily a skill set, because there's some people that have no acting credentials whatsoever, and I've been able to get amazing performances out of them by making them comfortable in what they're doing. Changing the words in a script, something that would sound more like their everyday speech, or putting them in a situation that they would find themselves in real life and just say, hey, pretend there's no camera here, or let's go through it however many takes you need, and just leave the camera rolling, and eventually you get some footage that you can use. There's different tricks you can do, but it's like filmmaking in the Central Valley, there's this attitude that either I'm the shit or I'm not, or I'm nothing. And I don't think filmmaking should be like that. There's been some instances, I've never had an actor that I've worked with that has been horrible, like acting wise, but there's been some people that I've worked with, their attitudes are just like, I'm not working with you again, because it's not constructive for the environment. It's, for the filmmaking environment, it's not, it doesn't help the film anymore. It doesn't, it's just not a good person to be around. And what's actually funny is the first shot that I ever had to make a feature film, I was working with, I don't want to name any names, but I was working with a friend of mine. To this day, he's still a friend. It wasn't his fault at all. But he was working through an organization, and we were supposed to be working with, the stipulation was our cast had to be half of the people from this organization that they're a part of. and half could be the public, right? And so we held an open audition, and it was a zombie film, and it was this horror film, super easy to make. I still have the script, and I'm still going to make it someday.
Nice, nice.
Right? I'm still
Yeah.
going to make it someday because at the it's a concept that I've never really seen done yet in a horror film. It smashes two different genres together. It smashes the horror film and the zombie film and the slasher film into one.
Okay.
So I don't want to talk too much big of the story away. I don't want someone else to take my idea, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the
Don't take
premise
this guy's
of the
idea,
story.
man.
Right. That's kind of the premise of the story, and we figured out a way to make it work. The hard part is making it work and making it believable in that world. And we figured out over the course of a while to figure out, like, okay, this is a storyline people can believe, and this is a storyline that catches the attention of people and puts all of the genres successfully smashed together. And so we figured it out. We casted the first round of people we casted. They were like, oh, we're the actors. We're the A-list actors. They had never worked on anything before. And they were really nice people, but they had the ego the size of a semi-truck. And so picture a semi-truck driving a whole bunch of Mini Coopers, driving around a whole bunch of Mini Coopers. That was like the size comparison, right?
Yeah.
They were like, oh, they were late to set. They were not on time. They didn't memorize their lines. They always had notes, so they wanted to change things. Even action sequences, they did their own things, which in some parts was dangerous because, you'd hurt performers or, you can get hurt doing things. There's a reason why we rehearse and why we set things up a certain way.
Absolutely.
We even went as far as, trying to accommodate, like, okay, well, what time of night can you guys film? You guys aren't going to be late. What time of day can we do this? Eventually it got to a point to where me and a few of the other producers at the time, where, we got to set, they were late, horribly late, a couple hours. We tried filming as much as we could. We couldn't get it done. We went back to my apartment and basically had the executive decision of let's fire everyone and start from scratch. And so we scrapped everybody and scrapped all the footage, and we had a deadline of Halloween that we were going to show this film.
Wow.
And so this is July, and we're like, shit. Okay, so we recasted. We got the whole people together. We tried to film everything as quickly and efficiently as possible, but everybody has schedules. So since people were working on volunteer, we had to work around people's time frames. We even got the Merced Castle or the Atwater Castle base to lend us a building, for like a week to shoot. And so we were filming and shooting, and then 3 days into the shoot, some guy shows up and says, hey, you guys need to leave. And we're like, what the hell happened? Well, the organization, and I don't know who else, pulled the funding for the film. They just said no more because it's taken too long. You guys don't know what you're doing, and you guys need to stop. And it's like, it wasn't our fault. We had to fire the first crew because they weren't paying attention, weren't getting anything done.
Exactly.
And the second crew, you have to take into consideration people have schedules. Some people we were working with, at the time, we were working with, people that were like 17, 16 years old that their parents had to be on set. And so we had to accommodate for school time. We had to accommodate for different things. It was like, so many things went wrong. And eventually I told myself, okay, from that day forward, when I work with people, I'm going to be in charge of the production.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to make sure that the people we work with are nice, that are, kind, that are, excited and enthusiastic to be there. And they're not going to be douches to other people.
Exactly.
And there's been a few films that I've worked on since then that there have been a couple of characters that have popped up that have been kind of rude and stuff to people, but I just don't invite them back for another film. Absolutely. And then there's some people that I love working with, and I've only worked with them once, and I don't want them to hear this and be like, oh, he thought I was a douche, that's why he hasn't invited me back. It's like, scheduling. There's some people that I love to work with again that I haven't been able to, but that's why I'm not naming names to anybody. But it's one of those things where around this area, it's just your personality. When you go onto a film, on my film set at least, when you walk onto a film set, leave your ego at the door and be there to have fun and work with people. And like the set of Halcyon, Chrono Film, which is a short film that I made, and now it is an award-winning miniseries that is out every Sunday. And those people were amazing to work with. 90% of the crew that works on the web series worked on the short film. And same thing with Halcyon, a lot of friends that I worked with and stuff like that, and Bishop, especially the latest film that we did. The
I love the
crew.
production, by the way, Bishop. Bishop is
Thank you.
super cool. I love that it's
The,
filmed in the black and white. That's the black and white one, right?
yeah, it's a film noir. So there's a one scene that has color, a little bit of color, and the rest of it's all black and white to kind of show that kind of noir kind of film feel
Yeah, I
to it.
love the black and white. It reminded me a lot of. Have you seen Logan?
Yeah.
Logan, yeah, they did one. Well, they filmed it in color, but they did a noir one, and that
Uh,
one was super cool to watch in noir. So that kind of reminded me of Bishop too. So
yeah,
Bishop was really fun production, really cool.
we put everything together, and all the crews that work for all those films, I've met previously on other jobs, and I hand selected them, hand picked them, because it was like, with the exception of a few extras that are in Bishop that I was the first time meeting, a lot of the actors, a lot of the crew for a lot of the films, I met them somewhere else, and I kind of gauged their character first before approaching them with this project and saying, hey, I would like you guys to be a part of this project, because it's all about who you work with. It's like going to work at a pharmacy or at a grocery store or wherever. You have to want to go to work for work to be enjoyable.
Absolutely.
You can't be like, oh God, I gotta go to work, because that's what filmmaking is. Filmmaking is a job. Everybody forgets when you go watch a movie and you go see all the stuff on the screen. You
They
forget
work.
that this is
Yeah.
people's livelihood. This is
Yeah.
their job. This is what they do. They work. And they work ridiculous hours.
Hard,
and
yeah.
so you need to want to do this.
Absolutely.
And I want people on my sets that want to do this. I want people that are, Debbie Downers and just bring everybody down. Because if one person does that, the whole production,
the whole cast will fall
down.
apart. That happened to me in my high school. We did a high school play, and I don't know if you know her. Name's she's a teacher. I'm not sure if you know her, but she's done other stuff. Her name is Kirby.
I think so.
Amanda Kirby.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think yeah.
Yeah, so she was like a drama teacher at the high school I was at, and we did the last call at Shaymore. I don't know if you know that play.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did the last call at Shaymore, and there was like this whole incident. It was crazy, but there was like this girl. She was like an extra. She wasn't part of the main cast. I was part of the main cast. So we had the main cast, and we just did this thing. It was like nothing, but we did this thing where all the main cast would huddle up, and we'd be like, and one of her things that she'd preach would be like, hey guys, fake it till you make it. If you guys don't remember your lines, then try to improvise and come up. So fake it till you make it. And so the main cast, we all huddled up together, and before performing, we'd go, oh, fake it till you make it, fake it till you make it, and we'd all be in a big circle and like just hype each other up. And one girl, an extra, saw that, and she got mad that she wasn't involved with the main cast. But and then she was like, and then she got her mom to come, and the mom yelled at Miss Kirby, and they were yelling back and forth. And after that, the tension and the production, like after that practicing, it was just like, I was like, man, I don't even want to be here no more, just because it was just like so whack. So like I do understand like when the cast falls apart easy. Like it just, like you said, it takes one person, and then boom, production falls apart.
And as a director, a lot of people as a director, a lot of people ask me what is it, what is it that you do, or what is it that is important? And the main important is keeping up morale for everybody, and also keeping the story in check and keeping everything in line. In my mind, the way you picture it as a director is the captain of the ship. He might not be the one driving or steering, steering. He might not be the one, checking the navigation. He might not be the one doing certain things at that time, but his job is to make sure everybody else is doing what they need to do so the boat gets from one place to another. That's his job. His job is to make sure everybody's doing their job, and everybody knows where they're going, and the end goal of everything. And that's what a director is supposed to do. Good directors communicate. They tell people like, hey, this is what we need to do today, and they're upbeat. They get along with everyone. Bad directors are somebody that's just like, yeah, put the camera over there and we'll start and see where it goes.
Yeah,
they don't communicate or tell people like, hey, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's like, yeah, morale is a big thing among cast and crew. If you have somebody who's just down in the dumps, then it if it doesn't put a damper on something, it will ruin the entire thing. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And it's funny, we say the whole thing of like fake it till you make it. That is literally like 90% of filmmakers when they first start out. Like you're telling me like they were like, oh, you don't have that big of a resume or whatever. me personally, like at the point where I'm at now, I know and I've learned enough to where I've had experience in everything that I can possibly do. There's some things that I've never done, and I don't want to necessarily go down that route because, you know, I'm not a professional in that specific, you know, area of film or whatever. You know, as a director, my job space wouldn't go there. But there's times where like I'll be like, someone will call me up and be like, hey, this is like years ago. Like, hey, I have a job. I need someone to work lighting. You know how to do that? And I'll be like, yep.
Yep.
And then I hang up the phone and I would Google everything I possibly could on lighting, watch YouTube videos for like a week straight till and then I'd show up on set and then I'd get the job done. And they'd be like, oh, how long have you been doing this? I'm like, this is my first time.
First time.
What? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't have given me the shot if I would have said no. It's like sometimes you need to there's a fine line. Yeah, there's a fine line. Like when it comes to like safety or certain grip jobs or certain jobs where you need training to make sure someone doesn't get hurt. In that instance, my suggestion would, for anybody listening, my suggestion would be, you know what? I've never done this before, but I would love to learn. Even if you don't hire me, can you have me on set so I can learn from the person you hire?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because there's some jobs that can hurt people if you don't wire a light right. You know, I've done gaffing jobs and I've done jobs where people, you know, where I put the lights up and I'm in charge of it and stuff like that. But prior to that job, I worked on a feature film called Itsy Bitsy as a second assistant director. So my job was to wrangle the actors and make sure they got to set on time. My job was to make sure the cast logs were done, the call sheets were done for the previous day or the next day. That was my job, right? Pretty much paperwork and working with actors on set.
Was Itsy Bitsy that horror spider film that was here in Merced? Yeah. You worked on that? So, I was going to ask you that if you worked on that.
Yeah. So I worked as a second assistant director on that. And you know, when we worked on that film, there was some downtime I had because they were, you know, getting shots of just random objects, or the actor was on set for like 4 hours and I wasn't needed because they were in front of the camera and they were doing their thing. And so what I would do in my spare time is I would go to the other departments and I would learn stuff that I could. I'd go to the gaffers and I'd be like, hey, can you guys show me how you're putting up this light? And I would help them put up some of the lights. I would put up some of the rigging. I would put up the stuff that was safe for me to do. And then I would learn and see what the difficult things was, and, you know, how to properly use a sandbag to hold the light, how to properly wire something. You know, I would talk to the camera department. They would show me how to put the camera together, charge the batteries, take the camera apart, clean the lenses. You know, there was always a room for learning. And so that's what I would do. So in some of the jobs that I couldn't learn on the set and they weren't necessarily a danger to other people, someone asked me, hey, do you know how to do this? I'd be like, yeah, sure. And I learned on the fly and figure out how to do it. And sometimes it's the best way of learning. And then there's other times where, no, I need to learn from a professional. I can't necessarily go out and risk somebody's life. So if anybody's listening to this, if you're an aspiring filmmaker and you want more experience, use your judgment. If 9 times out of 10, if it stunts, heavy equipment, or anything that involves a vehicle or a moving object, if someone asks you, can you do this for me? Say, look, be honest. I don't know how to do this, but can I be on set while you guys are doing this so I can learn from the person you hire? 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, yeah, sure, because it's the extra help. They'll probably make you a PA or a production assistant. Yeah. And you just be on set and you learn. They get an extra helping hand. Volunteering, they don't have to pay you, so they're happy, right? And if you have the time, do it. If it's something like, oh, can you help with wardrobe, or oh, can you help just drive someone to set, you have a license, can you help us with production assistant, just moving things or setting up something, or assist us. If they ask you something like that, something that you can learn on the job, you can be like, yeah, sure, I can do that. You don't necessarily need a lie and say, hey, I have so many film credits. You can just say yes.
Yeah, honestly, guys,
go from there. But there's certain things you guys got to realize, hey, it's all what you think is right, and figure out what you need to say.
Definitely, honestly, man, listen to this guy. This guy's been around, man. Feature films. Itsy Bitsy was a really major film around Merced. It made big news around here. Where were the filming locations for that? You know where they were?
You kind of cut out. What was the last thing?
Oh yeah. So I was like, Itsy Bitsy was really a big film. It made a lot of big news around here. Where were some of the film locations here in Merced? Where were those at?
So some of the filming, my involvement with the film and some of the filming locations were, local businesses. There was, I believe, somebody that lent their house or ranch, kind of going towards like Chowchilla area.
Okay.
And there was a writer that actually lives out that way that we used to filmed at their house. So there's two different homes, like mansions, that we filmed at. And then my dad's pharmacy was actually one of the locations.
Oh, nice.
And that's actually how I got the job. So what happened was that they called the pharmacist, the producer. There's separate producers, different film. They filmed for 3 weeks here, and then they came back like a year later, got pickup shots for a few days, and then they came back and got another few shots. So there was a long process of making this film because, they filmed in Los Angeles, they filmed in Merced, different time frames. And so I was in charge of the crew, working with the crew in Merced. And so were calling around different businesses. They called the pharmacy, and because of the HIPAA and because of different things, it's really difficult to get pharmacy locations. And so they were calling all the pharmacies, and all of them were telling them no. And so they called my dad's pharmacy, and my aunt answered the phone, and I worked there part-time doing stuff to helping them out. And I would happen to be there that day, and she was like, hold on. She gave me the phone. So I talked to the lady on the phone, and she's like, oh, we're looking for filming locations, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah. I go, we have a pharmacy here. I kind of overstepped my dad and was just like, yeah, sure. At least come talk to us. Yeah. Just come by and come talk to us at least. And not necessarily yes, but just come by and come talk to us.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay. And I told her, I go, I'm a local filmmaker. If there's any other locations you need, let me know. I might be able to talk to some business owners.
Absolutely.
And that sparked her response with, do you have a resume? And I said, yeah, I'll send it to you. And so I sent her my resume, sent her my short films. I sent her a link to my YouTube. I told her how long I've been doing this. I told her what I was doing. And like within a week, I was offered the job for second assistant director. And at the time, I was like, what does a second assistant director do? Because like I know first assistant director is the guy that yells action, cut. He's the guy that's in charge of setting the cameras up. He basically is the voice for the director, because the director's job is to direct the actors on their actions. And so the first assistant director works with the camera crew to make sure they're ready to go. And so the second assistant director, I was like, what's that job? Well, basically they're to make sure that actors get to set and do all the paperwork. The job a lot of people don't like. And so I jumped at it. I was like, yeah, for sure. I would love to do this. And so that was my first big paying job. And, I jumped on board. We scouted locations. We used a few businesses downtown. The second time they came back, we used a few places up in Snelling, some highways and different places. And we filmed in Hornitos. So we shot up there. There's different crews that came. The first time and the second time, there was only a handful of people that were the same. But I mean, the crew and people that were working with were amazing. They were all really nice, and they were all outgoing. They were all really, they were willing to learn, willing to teach. And I credit so much, this guy's name is Cosmos. He was our first, when we had the production had its own, I don't want to get too much into it, but the production had its own drama, stuff that happens, we went through 2 first assistant directors in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And crew dropped out and was rehired, and different crew was hired. So there was like a whole bunch of shift changes happening within the first week. Wow. But the first week, our first assistant director, his name is Cosmos. He asked me, he goes, first day, have you ever done this before? I said, no. And he goes, do you want to learn? And I said, I would love to. And he goes, okay, you can shadow me and I will help you. And so kind of away from the producers and the director and everybody else's eyes, he was giving me tips on, you should try this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And he was actually letting me stand next to him during when he was doing his job. So there's things that I learned from him, a lot that I learned from him that first week. So when he left and the new assistant director came in, I didn't have to worry about asking him, well, what does this mean? Or what's this form? Or what's this paperwork? I knew everything already. And so the second guy that came in thought I'd been doing this for years because I was efficient and I was working really, really hard. So it's like, it's one of those things where like that film experience was so much fun. I got sick during filming. So,
oh, yeah?
I mean, I ended up getting pneumonia during filming. Man. Yeah, I actually almost passed out on set. Like the second to last day, I lost my breath and I ended up going to the hospital. And yeah, it was, I got better,
That's
but
good,
I'm
man.
still, whenever cold season rolls around, my lungs still feel it. I mean, it gave me a pretty good number. I got sick, but that was from me working crazy because the job that I had required me to be the first one on set and the last one to leave.
Yeah.
And there was some days where, on, like, for example, we worked on Valentine's Day. I worked from, I think it was like 2 p.m. until the next morning because we did an all night shoot. And then I ended up taking one of the actors home and then going to go buy stuff for Valentine's Day for my wife. And then I had spent Valentine's Day with her, and then I went to sleep the next day. So it was like I was pushing my body
Past
farther than
its
it could
limits,
go.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, I was pushing it past its limits and ended up getting sick.
Yeah.
And when you're on set and you have a minor cough, you try to hold it in, and that was my mistake. I was like on set, and my job required me to be next to the audio equipment, and so like I had to repress,
Got to be
cough,
quiet.
and
Yeah,
then
definitely. I understand.
it ended up just messing me up. But it was one of the funnest things ever. But I mean, you live and you learn. Now I know that if I have
Absolutely.
a cough or I have a cold, leave the room.
Yeah.
Don't stay there, or tell them, hey, I don't feel well today, I'm gonna stay home.
So you filmed mini shorts, mini sketches, feature lengths, all kinds of stuff, music videos, little short stuff for like commercials, weddings. What would you say would be like
Yeah.
the easiest types to like film that are like, oh, like this is easy money, boom, 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 boom. Like I could do this really fast. I really like your work on Z Chronic. Shout out to Z Chronic, man. I would love to have you on. Z Chronic, I love the nostalgia music video. That one's cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So the easiest to work on is probably, I think, I want to say probably live events.
Really?
That is the easiest to work because you just set up cameras and you have to make sure you capture the moment. And since it's a live moment, be it weddings or a concert, or I used to work for a company called Pro Wrestling Bushido, and they do wrestling shows for like 2 years.
Nice.
And so like
nice.
I've been everywhere, man. I've done concerts, I've done wrestling shows. I got to meet professional wrestlers. I've done music videos, like, I'd say everything, but it's like out of all the stuff, live events are probably the easiest. And then it starts having the level of difficulty starts going up from there, because the next one above that would probably be music videos, because the music track is already done.
Yep.
So you don't really have to capture audio on set unless you're doing a specific type of video that requires it. And so you can play with having a speaker blasting in the background and the person lip syncing, and you can play with a whole bunch of crazy editing, and there's not really a lot of structure there that is defined, like this is how a music video is supposed to be. It can be whatever you want. And then the hardest part of filmmaking is probably the narrative filmmaking, the short films, web series, because you're telling a story, people have to understand the story, there's a whole bunch of factors, you know what I mean? So it kind of goes up from there as far as the level of difficulty. And the most difficult thing that I've ever done, ironically enough, is probably documentaries.
Really?
Yeah, because documentaries is a mix of capturing live moment and scripted narrative. So you have to find that balance of what's real life and what's something you want specifically for your short. And then sometimes it comes with time restraints. Like for example, my dad's film, it's 5 minutes long, because when I was selected for the Big Tell last year. And so, I got the funding and stuff, and CMAC and Fresno and different organizations helped me produce it and put it together. And their time limit was 5 minutes. Try smashing a person's life story in 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I have hours and hours and hours of interview footage from not only my dad, customers, family members, and stuff like that. And I want to do a bigger, right now I'm so busy I can't do it, but eventually down the road I'm going to get to where I'm going to do a bigger, longer edit for my dad so he can see it. And it's probably going to be an hour and a half, like Netflix level documentary, how long it is, right? Definitely. But it's like, it's really, really hard. Documentaries are the hardest thing, because you're trying to portray a story and give information, but you don't want to lie necessarily. You don't want to like give false information to someone who's knowingly watching a documentary to learn something. because I feel like there's a lot of documentaries on Netflix that they kind of use misleading information to hook viewers.
Absolutely.
And then once you're done watching it, you're just like, I didn't really learn anything that I didn't really know.
Yeah.
Or that they gave me false information just to glorify something and make it seem that much more sinister when it wasn't what I thought. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And there's some documentaries that do like amazing job. Like they know how to teach you and they do things right. But there's some that are kind of, you know.
Did you see that mermaid documentary back when Animal Planet posted that? They posted like this whole documentary about mermaids, and like they found this bones inside a shark, and they tried to fit it into like tails of different animals in the sea, and it turned out to be a human hand. And so like, and they found parts of a skull, and they did like the forensics clay. They did that, and it was like a freaking aquatic creature. But then it turns out it was like fake, and it's like, what?
Yeah, there's also documentaries. My favorite ones are about Bigfoot and about you know, the Loch Ness monster and stuff like. But they're always like, new evidence will show us that, you know, there's real, these creatures are real, or we found the body of Bigfoot, and then it ends up being like a bear or something. You're just like, dude, like I'm very skeptical when it comes to documentaries of like mythical creatures, because I'm like, part of me would be like, that'd be so cool to find out that they're real. And then part of me is just like, dude, don't play with me like that.
Yeah. Right. Like, come on, bro.
I mean, yeah. My daughter, she loves unicorns. And up until recently, you know, she had friends in her class who would be like, you know, unicorns are fake. You know, they're kind of, you know, kids are,
Those
right?
kids are dicks.
Right. Yeah, you know, kids are. But like, you know, I basically brought up, I was like, you know, unicorns were real. And she's like, no, they weren't. And I was like, yeah, and they were an actual, like a type of rhino.
Yeah, they were, right?
Yeah, in the prehistoric times, right?
Yeah.
And so they were like a type of, they didn't look nothing like what they look like on a you know, lunchbox. They looked nothing like that, but they existed. And so like I kind of showed it to her and stuff like that, and she kind of saw it, and she was like, oh, you know, it might not be exactly what I pictured, but it was a real creature. And so I told her, I go, so there's any possibility. I mean, you live in an age where there's genetic splicing. I mean, you can have a horse and a rhino and mix them and possibly get a horse with a horn eventually in my lifetime. So it's kind of one of those things where like, you know, morally, ethically, is it okay? No, but eventually someone will be like, mad scientists figure out how to do it, and boom, you got real unicorns. So like, I like magical creatures, and they'd be cool if you see something for real, but when I see a documentary on them, I'm like,
yeah,
I get a little skeptical.
When I watched that documentary, I was just like, I was super young, so I was like really believed it. I was like, man, fucking, there's mermaids in the sea. We only know 5% of the sea. That's why I did believe it big. But going back on it and just looking at it again as I'm older, I'm just like, nah, I just don't see it. I think you guys are fucking lying. And they like, the people even came out and like the news too. They're like, oh yeah, we just wanted the ratings. Animal Planet wanted the ratings, so we put this crazy documentary out.
It's like, that's all it is. It's just ratings and money.
Yeah.
So that's what everybody's looking for.
Absolutely. I want to break into the segue for debate club. So
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm gonna break out these debate clubs right now. So these are all film related. I have them all set up right here. So right now, you're my guest. I'll let you pick. The first one is VHS or DVD. Which one do you pick, brother? We'll debate up against it.
Which one I pick out of the two?
Yep.
Probably DVD.
DVD? I'll pick VHS. I pick VHS because, man, you know, it just takes you back to those nostalgic feelings. You get the little, you know, the little through the TV.
Yeah.
You're watching it. It's going through. Nothing beats that feeling, man. Going back. And, you know, if you leave the room, you don't have to restart it. You just take it out. You put it back in. It's the same thing. You're left to where you're at. So that's why I pick VHS.
I picked DVD because of bonus features. I don't know how many times when I was a kid that I would find VHSs that were just a video, and I always wanted to know how the hell they made this film. And back in the day when VHSs were around, they didn't have a lot of bonus features attached to like a double disc. You know, there's some double tape, you know, packaging, but it was very rare.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so like DVDs, how did they make this? I can watch a featurette, or, you know, I can go to the exact spot where I want. I don't have to click fast forward and then wait and be like, you know, like back in the day when I was a kid, like I would be like, okay, I'm going to watch this movie I'm gonna fast forward. I have to count to 30, and by the time I count to 30, I'm hoping it's at the spot that I remember.
Yeah.
Because you watch the movie so many times. But it's like DVD, you can just be like scroll, scroll, click, done.
Done. So let me tally up the votes because I did this poll on my Instagram. 30% for VHS and 70% for DVD. So
see?
That, yep. All right, on to the next question. So this debate is, would you rather have the career of Adam Sandler or Chris Hemsworth? So I'll let you pick. Who'd you pick for that one?
I'm going to go with Adam Sandler.
Oh, man, yeah. I'll take Chris Hemsworth. Why would you pick Adam?
I'd rather have the career of Adam Sandler because even though he puts out some films that people say are crap, he has a really long film list of really good films, and he can show that he's relevant no matter what time it is. Like especially with the uncut gems, the movie, right? He took his acting to another level where no one expected him to go with it.
Oh, good.
And he's one of those guys where like he can make a movie like The Ridiculous Six and Uncut Gems, and you're just like, that's the same guy.
That's the same
guy.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like he's like that versatile actor that sometimes he might drop off the end and popularity might go down a little bit, but then a project can come out and he goes right back up. You know what I mean? And he always puts out stuff that even if you don't like the movie, there's funny parts that make you laugh and there's something that's decent. There's a few films he's done that I wish I didn't see. Like the whole Jane, I think it was a Jack and Jane or whatever that film was. I was like, what the hell? What did I just see? But there is some films that he puts out that, that are really good and stuff like that. There's some films that my wife watches all the time that she loves from him, that he's in at least. And so like, yeah, I would pick him because he's more relevant over a long scale versus, something else.
Man, I'd pick Chris Hemsworth because, man, first of all, if I was Chris Hemsworth or if I had that career, I would have the same trainer. So I would never have a shirt on like 24/7. And I'd just be slanging. I'd be slanging, all the time. And who wouldn't want to be Thor and be in the Marvel universe? That would be so awesome. It is a short period of time. I don't know what Chris Hemsworth does now, but that's why I would rock with Chris Hemsworth. No shirt gang.
Yeah.
Let me tally up the votes. 75% said Adam Sandler and 25% said Chris Hemsworth. So Adam Sandler takes it again. All right,
I think I know audience's ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go for a third one. Would you rather go through a horror scenario or a action movie scenario?
I would rather go through a horror scenario, not an action.
Okay, I'll take action. Why would you pick horror?
Because there's no way I can outrun a bullet, and I'm not the action star that can jump off of a moving train. And I know I would not survive that. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I'm in my own right. I'm pretty strong. I'm pretty nimble. I have a martial arts background. I have weapons training. I know how to shoot a gun and stuff, but I don't want to be the next John Wick. I don't want to find myself in that situation because I probably wouldn't walk away from it, at least not without being maimed. In a horror movie situation, normally it's somebody chasing you with a knife. I can defend myself from that. Or, it's a ghost haunting a house. I can get the hell out of the house.
Yeah.
Or I can burn the house down. One of the two. If there's a zombie, I can grab a rake and I can take it out. You know what I mean? I have more of a fighting chance in a horror situation than I do in an action movie situation.
Man, I think I'd pick an action situation just because, with Donald Trump being all crazy and stuff right now, we're probably going to be in an action movie pretty soon.
Oh, man.
It's another country.
Don't even say
So I'm getting ready to do an action movie.
Like the whole Red Dawn incident and stuff like that.
Something like that.
When we were filming Halcyon, one of the things was we were talking about like, hey, what kind of action scenario would be realistic, right? And so if you've seen it and stuff like that, the film, it takes a comedic turn. It takes a really quick turn of what would happen in real life.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of those things where like we're kind of talking about it and stuff, and it's like, man, if this was real life situations, James Bond movies would be so different. There's no way.
Absolutely. So let me tally up the things right here. So 58% said horror. They'd rather go through a horror scenario, and 42% said action. So
there you go.
Closer.
Bam.
A little bit closer, but Alrighty, we got two more. So
All right.
here's the next one. Subtitles during a movie or no subtitles during a movie?
Subtitles.
Okay, I'll pick none. Why would you like subtitles? Why would you pick subtitles?
Me and my wife were huge anime fans. And so, like, we've noticed something that, not necessarily with American films, but like with Japanese or Korean or Chinese films, when you have the subtitles, a lot of the times the English dub that's going over is different because the subtitles are actually trying to go off of the actual original language. So you learn more about a character, or you learn more about a scene, or just a subtle change in the way things were said impacts a scene a lot differently. Best example of that is like if you watch anime, you roll the app or whatever, and you watch an anime with the English dub, and then you watch an anime with the English subtitles in Japanese language. Like there'll be a scene where two characters will talk, and then you in the English version, the two characters are talking about a situation that makes them feel uncomfortable. And then you watch the Japanese version and you read it, and it reads and plays out like one character's threatening the other character. They're not both uncomfortable. So like and the whole show makes a lot more sense. It's not way the hell out there. So I'm more of the whole subtitle thing. I mean, not everything I watch I want to have subtitles on it, but majority of it makes it so much more interesting when you read them.
Absolutely. I guess I'll pick no subtitles because, I hate when the words are popping up, they're coming in front of the characters' faces, or sometimes they're up on top of the screen, or sometimes they're up on the bottom, so I'm like doing this during the movie,
yeah,
going like that. That's why I would pick none. So let me tally these up. 55% said subtitles, and 45% said none. So you take the cake again, brother.
There's got to be something there if I call that out.
Right. So let me see. This is the last one.
Right.
More CGI in movies or more practical effects in movies? Which one would you pick?
Oh shit. I'm gonna say practical effects.
Okay, I'll pick CGI. Well, why would you say practical effects?
So practical effects, just because you get a better, as a filmmaker, from my point of view, I get a better performance out of my actors when they have something that they're working with. CGI is great, don't get me wrong, but like, for example, Marceline, we're actually going to have characters in costume. We're actually having puppets. Originally, we're going to have one of the main characters going to be CGI the entire thing, but I found it very difficult for my daughter to pay attention to something that's not there, or a tennis ball, or act off of it that didn't really work right. So it was better to actually have a practical puppet or a practical costume on set. So I feel more of the whole thing of like, it's just a better tool. I mean, you can always enhance it. That's great. They work better together, but I prefer more practical effects.
Man, I would pick CGI because, James Cameron just goes to show you can make a whole movie in that fucking CGI. Avatar. CGI, it's 2020. I think mainly some filmmakers are going to go towards more CGI. So I see it in like a lot of movies nowadays too. So I'd pick CGI. So let me tally up these votes. 25% said CGI and 75% said practical. Practical wins, brother. You win the debate. You clean sweep me, brother. I got no wins.
But when it comes to the whole practical CGI, I feel like I'm one of the very rare filmmakers that I think they work better together than separate. A lot of people think a lot of people think that when we do practical effects on set, a lot of people believe that we try to do everything right. We try to do everything that you see on camera and stuff like that. But the reality is that we only do what we can to help the actor and to help the camera. And whatever we can enhance in CGI, we will, because it's either cost effective, it's safe for the actors, it's safe for the crew. You can only go so far with one, but the other one helps it push it that much farther. A perfect example of that is The Mandalorian. On set, it had a practical Yoda, right? So, but there was some sequences where the Yoda is CGI because the camera's far enough back and the Yoda's walking. So what you do is you mimic the CGI to mimic the puppet. so it looks indistinguishable from the two.
Absolutely.
You don't try and make it look CGI. You try and like, the puppet, even if it's CGI, it'll have like that subtle hand movement. You know what I mean? So it's like you always try to enhance the next step. You necessarily don't go backwards, but I feel like a lot of moviegoers don't think that way. They either think it's either one or the other.
Absolutely.
They don't think that they're married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
well, brother, I thank you for coming on, man. It's amazing having you as a guest. I knew when I first started this that I'd want to have you on. You're an amazing filmmaker. You do so many great things. Is there anything you want to tell people, anything that we could find you on, any new films coming up before you head out of here?
So a couple things. So Marceline, the series, comes out this fall. It's going to be on streaming services and stuff like that. We're shooting for Amazon Prime, YouTube for sure, and a few other places and stuff like that, so people can check it out and they can watch it. There's going to be little subtle differences. YouTube's going to be free, obviously. People can check it out on there. Amazon Prime is going to have a little more content because, it is a pay subscription stuff. So we're going to kind of reward people for having an Amazon Prime account, seeing it on there. And then we're looking at a few other places and stuff. Our end goal is to hopefully get it Netflix, Hulu, other places and stuff. So we're going to be doing that. Bishop is going to be going on Amazon Prime coming out in the fall. It has extra scenes and stuff that's added to it. We're currently in production for a few other short films and stuff that we're working on, and I'm going to announce it now. We're actually going to be working on in the next, currently we already shot some things and we're going to be finishing them up. We're doing our first 2 live action animes. So we're actually doing they're our own storylines, but they exist in the anime. So it takes place in America, not Japan. It takes place with American actors, not Japanese actors. And they exist in the world of the anime, but they take place either after the anime is done on a different part of the world or simultaneously as something's going on in Japan. Because I don't have access to Japanese actors and I don't want to really step on the toes of characters and, do that whole thing where I change the ethnicity of everything.
Definitely.
But we're doing a Death Note for anybody who's fans of Death Note. We're doing that one, which our film takes place 5 years after the last episode of Death Note. And then we're also doing a live action of Digimon. And
nice.
that one is going
Throwback.
to take place. Yeah, that one's going to take place 5 years after the latest film that just came out. So it's the Digimon time frame usually follows the year 2015 and stuff. Our film takes place in 2020. So we're working on those 2 right now, and we're trying to do as much practical effects as possible. We're actually building a Shinigami. We're actually building a Digimon puppet. We're actually doing stuff because we want to show people where the limitation is between CGI and live stuff like that. And plus, makes it so much easier for my daughter to act alongside of a Digimon puppet than it does a CGI one. We're putting those out, and our main goal with those is to show people that you can do anime live action properly if you take certain rules into account. There's certain things you can't there's no way you can replicate. I mean, some of the best Japanese production company live action series movies, and some of them are amazing and they've done it and hit it on point, and some of them miss the mark so bad that you're just like, what was that? So we're trying to do this to show people and kind of give people hope, because apparently Disney is doing a live action Digimon movie because they got the rights to it when they bought Fox. And also they're doing a live action Dragon Ball Z series because they got the rights when they bought Fox. So we're trying to show people, hey, you can do this right. Don't worry, because Disney has a lot more money. They'll be able to do it a lot better. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff. And then plus, it's something I've always wanted to do and put on my resume. Like, hey, Disney, give me a call. If you guys listen to this podcast, hit me up. I'm totally down to direct the Digimon movie.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Disney. Holler at my boy. Disney, come on.
Yeah, holler at me.
Yeah.
So there's those things. And then and then our Violet Film Festival comes back next year. The submissions for the next year close the end of this month. So if you guys are filmmakers, you want to get your films seen next year, make sure you guys submit your films by the end of the month. A brand new round of submissions and stuff like that will open up around December, January for the fall, the next year and stuff like that. And then we'll have celebrity guests, we'll have celebrity judges, we'll have all that information and stuff like we do every year being posted and stuff like that as time goes on. Hopefully this COVID thing goes away. And
man, tell me about it.
Yeah. It makes filming a lot interesting. I get that mask on. It's a nightmare.
If you guys want to follow Christopher Velazquez of Violet Films, His channel will be linked in the bio of this video. His website. Tell us your website name.
So our website is violetfilms.com, VIOLETTE films.com. And then from there, we have links to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook channel. We have links to our film festival website. We have some short films that we post on there. We have trailers for films that are on streaming services you guys can check out. And then we also have exclusive content and stuff that's coming out behind the scenes. And you can learn a little bit more about the crew and the actors and stuff that participate in our stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you, brother, for joining me during this hour. Super amazing to talk to you. Super talented and creative guy. I love your films. I love your style. I love the family business. I love everything about it, man. I can't wait to see what is in store for Violet Films coming up.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on.
Alrighty, Space Dog fam. We're out of here.